Before you start franchising your concept, it is a reality that you are going to be turning over your business to a franchise owner that you hope, believes in your vision and is going to adhere to the system standards. Not every franchisee is going to do that. In fact, some people are not really cut out to be franchise owners because they want to, drive the ship. They want to be able to control their destiny completely. But being part of a franchise system means it's really working together with the franchisor, that you guys are all rowing in the same direction. But I do agree with you that when you do have those franchisees that believe in the vision, it is certainly much easier to lead the organization than having a lot of company and locations, right?
Yep. Agreed. Agreed 100%. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So bring the audience up to speed. You have 32 locations total, 12 of which are company owned. You're in 9 states plus DC. So right now, what are you guys thinking in terms of growth? Are you thinking of adding company and location still, or going just franchising? Where do we go from here?
It's going to be a heavily weighted hybrid model towards franchising. And when I say heavily weighted, yes, we'll continue to add corporate stores in certain markets that we already have a footprint in, like the Denver market, right? We have 5 of our locations out there are company owned, and we have a great management team out there already, right? We have great people in the field. Our staff is incredible. Our team is great. We've done a good job of building brand awareness. So we'll continue to add a few stores out there at a time. But our focus mainly is on growing this through franchising and finding the right franchise partners for our brand. I mentioned there are some one-off things. We are a unique brand with liquor licensing in the bar component where, there's certain states and localities where instead of putting that onus on a franchisee, I'll use Minneapolis as an example. They have some really quirky and unique liquor laws where I don't want to give that to a franchisee to do, right? We can maybe do a few stores in Minneapolis. We'll go take those corporately, right? Where we can make sure that we're testing the product, not putting a franchisee in a bad position from a legal standpoint, et cetera. So, we really, those are one-offs though, right? So it's going to be something where our core focus is building the franchise brand.
Okay. How did you find your first, dozen franchisees? Were they customers? Were they through broker groups? Where'd you find these people?
Yeah. And this is where, again, as being an emerging franchisor, franchising is expensive, right? And so you have to ask yourself, how are you going to generate leads? Are you going to compete in that front? And our first few franchisees were all organic of connections, right? Whether they were a customer or they were a connection from another networking group or something like that. So our first ever franchisee, like I said, was our banker. He purchased the Omaha location that we started. And so he was our first quote unquote franchisee. Now, our first ever ground up franchisee was a connection through Sean, who he went to law school with. So he went to law school with somebody who got into franchising another concept with his business partner, and they built that up to 6-7 locations. He heard about what Sean was doing, and that was our first discovery day, quote unquote, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Was in a WeWork in Kansas City, right? Just like making sure we had a place to bring people in and have meetings at. But so that was a mutual connection. Our third franchisee was a customer that purchased locations in Dallas. And again, we've made mistakes, right? With, bringing people in that are now not in the system anymore. And we've learned from that, right? Sure. But your first few franchisees, people that are going to come to you are going to be your brand advocates and your early adopters. And that's not a bad thing. That can be a real strength to a brand that's trying to emerge in the franchising space. But you got to be really detailed and focused, because naturally as a founder and a developer and somebody who wants to sell and you want to grow your brand, God, it's so easy to get excited about getting that first franchise fee check, seeing a franchisee go through the real estate process. But you have to ask yourself, is this person going to be the right fit? Are they going to follow what we're doing, right? Are they going to make sure that uphold the standards of the brand? Do they understand how much work this takes? And it's not just going to be, hey, this is a really sexy brand. I want to buy a franchise. It'll be like Chick-fil-A and we'll have 100 people standing outside to get their haircut. No, man. I mean, this is a service-based business. It's people-driven. Every business is people-driven, right? But it's been, you take a lot of learnings from those early stages of development and how you grow your brand moving into the future. And so we just joined a broker network here in the last few months for FranChoice, and so we'll be utilizing them for leads here moving forward. And that was sort of where Sean Tanner and I wanted to make sure that, once we got those couple organic sales in, that helped set up, we were fine from a cash perspective, right? We didn't have to worry about, hey, we're going to run out of money for payroll or keep the lights on. So like when you can make sure you're keeping the lights on, and then now you need to invest in your infrastructure to develop and sell and scale, that's really what we wanted to do. And so I think we've threaded the needle well through that time period.
Erik, you sound like an industry veteran, not somebody who's only franchised since 2017. I'm impressed.
I appreciate that. And we do our best, and I'll give credit to Sean and Tanner for pushing me, right? A lot of times, co-founders or founders, they're lonely, right? Maybe their co-founder's not in the business anymore. And to be able to have two of my best friends that still are, that are in the business every single day, we're driving to make this better. We didn't just start franchising on a whim. We researched it, we immersed ourselves in it, and continue to do that. And, we like to think we bring some fresh ideas to the table about how we do things from a process standpoint internally with our team, with our set of franchisees, with the corporate team, et cetera. But I appreciate that. And it's all credit to the people around us for sure.
That's great. Yeah, you certainly have solved the issue of the loneliness, because that happens when you grow in a business where you feel like the larger the company grows, I feel like the circle gets smaller and smaller of, the people that you can talk to about what's going on strategically and what's in your head and where you want to go, because it's going to affect a whole lot of people. I know I've shared that before in
Absolutely.
Past episodes, and it's something that it's a very real thing. But the three of you together, that is the pro of the three of you being together. The downside, of course, is what happens when you guys don't all agree. How do you work it out?
Okay, so this is where you want an odd number, right?
Sure.
You got 2 or 4, you're kind of, you could be in a pickle here, right? And what I'll say about that is we've done a lot of internal looking at processes and organizational structure and making sure that we're communicating clearly with our team currently, right? That's evolved over time. We have 12 employees on the HQ team, including us 3. We have to have clear responsibilities of who's responsible for what, who's responsible when, et cetera. From a decision-making standpoint, and something that we got lucky on is when you have 3 founders, a lot of times those people, men, women, whoever, 2 founders, 4 founders, whatever, they're going to have similar strengths, right, and weaknesses. And so again, it is a pure luck thing where like our strengths complement each other's weaknesses. And so we're able to work together dynamically on different projects and come to resolutions that work for everybody. And when we are at a critical juncture of saying, hey, we're making a big decision for the company initiative in 24 or whatever, we're going to have passionate discussions about what we think is right for Scissors and Scotch. And ultimately, the way it usually works with us 3 is there are really no more than 2 viewpoints, right? And so you might have 2 people having a discussion, and usually they're not far off, right? Like sometimes it is diametrically opposed, but what's great about the third is that there's somebody that's always sort of in the middle, right? And what happens is that person is able to help discuss and mediate and have, thoughtful insights from both people to help come to a decision that's going to move the company forward. And where we always land is, hey, it's a united front, right. No matter the decision that's made, if I'm in a discussion with Sean and Sean angle or path forward ultimately is the way we go, I'm fully on board, right? Because if you're not, and you're jaded by that or you're hurt by it, that's just bad for everybody. And that's where having that dynamic of 3 people and 3 people who respect the hell out of each other, able to move that forward, that's huge, right? The respect factor is one that I think you can't overlook, right? Because, while we started the company as best friends, that respect and friendship has only grown and gotten stronger. Early on, that was, a very tough thing, to your point earlier about, you don't usually the 3 best friends just jumping in and doing it, right? There were some road bumps, but man, we got stronger because of it. And, hopefully the future is just, the sky's the limit for where we think we can take this brand.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.